Well, good morning, Lionhearts. It's your old pal, Jordan the Lion. How are you all doing today? I hope you said well. If you're looking at that spitting lion behind me, have no fear. We're in Savannah, Georgia. Daze with Jordan the Lion. It begins now. Now this is showing us that the building right here was the old Savannah Cotton Exchange because they used to ship a lot of the cotton from the banks right on the other side of here. But what we're gonna do today is head off to Chippewa Square. See, this is the United States Custom House, but on the grounds before it has an amazing history as well. Let me show you. Now you'll see here that it says the Custom House stands on historic ground on a house on this site. James Oglethorpe, founder of the colony of Georgia, lived for a time. So where we're going to Chippewa Square actually has some movie history, but it also has a big statue of James Oglethorpe right in the center. And you probably have seen it many, many times in a movie and didn't realize that's what you were looking at. Think of that. Founder of the colony of Georgia had his house here. Now that's some history. Now I plan on doing a lot of vlogs here in the future, so if we see something and we talk about it and I don't go too in detail, don't get too upset because I'll be back. I can do, you know, more focused vlogs in the future. I just want to show you things that we're passing along the way. So if you can see it in the distance, there's a church steeple out that way. That's where we're heading to. That's kind of the start of our little filming location video today. I always love walking on cobblestone. And we won't be doing a ghost tour this time, but maybe in the future. Oh, take a look at that. Nice little mom and pop soda shop here. The little slushy dog. And Girl Scout specials. Okay, now we're entering Wright Square. Nice flowers. Stop and smell the roses sometimes. Tomo Chi-Chi's grave. Native American chief. Good friend to the English, a friendship indispensable to the establishment of the colony. Now let me show you the significance of this house. As you can see on this sign, it says, Girl Scouts of the United States, Juliette Low birthplace. Pardon our cookie crumbs. So what this is the birthplace of Juliette Low, founder of the Girl Scouts. That's why they had that Girl Scout discount. So this is usually open for tours, although not right now because they're working on it. So at some point we'll come do a tour of this. I want to show you the elaborate front gate they put on this too. It's amazing. When I saw it the other day, I was just totally blown away by this. You can see it has the Girl Scouts GS and then the date 1912 and her name and birth and death dates with the Girl Scout little logos here. And this still isn't where we were actually trying to get to our destination today. Pretty cool to find along the way. So also, as we're just walking along, I mean, right there was her house. Right here says is the original 1733 burial plot allotted to James Oglethorpe. We're heading this way, and this church right here is where we want to start. So, if you are a fan of the early to mid 90s Tom Hanks movie Forrest Gump, which I am, you probably recognize this. The opening credits, you see that little white feather floating through the sky. It eventually passes by this church, continues floating along, even passing this yellow building over here, floating freely through the sky, and we'll continue on the path that little feather takes over here to Chippewa Square. So as that feather floats past this beautiful yellow building, it starts working its way down to this intersection, this corner right here, where you have a man standing here and the feather just about lands on his shoulder and then billows off over top of a car that's right here, over the car, and right here to this patch of plants that used to have a platform, a bus stop, and that's where Forrest Gump was waiting for his number 9 bus. And you can see that little statue of Oglethorpe over there in the background every time they do a scene here with him. Now it starts out with him offering the woman next to him a chocolate, trying to strike up conversation, because Forrest is painted as a sort of a slow person who sometimes maybe doesn't know the social graces and doesn't notice that this woman doesn't want to be talked to, but he continues to talk to her and offers his chocolate. It says, "Mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. Never know what you're gonna get." And he starts talking to her and notices her shoes and says, "I bet those are really comfortable shoes. Bet they'll take you anywhere you want to go." Then he says, "I know a lot about shoes." And he starts telling his story. From here, right here on this bench, about 3/4 of the movie really happens. It's Forrest telling his whole life, and occasionally they'll cut back to him on the bench sitting next to someone new, but for the most part it's, you know, it's him sitting there in that white suit with the blue picnic table type shirt, and him sitting right in that exact spot. Isn't that cool to see? Now the next time that they kind of cut over to it, he's telling his story about how there was a nice young boy who stayed at their house and played a guitar, and when Forrest starts dancing, he's dancing the way Elvis did on Ed Sullivan, so you kind of see that Forrest is influencing pretty much all of normal life. And at the same rate, they cut back to here when he's telling about being a war hero and meeting the president and everything, and the time that he's telling about how he becomes a runner, how he's got those leg braces and then all of a sudden they break off and he can run, and he said, "And I was running." So cool to see this. I mean, I also love the part when they cut back to here because he's talking about owning Bubba Gump Shrimp Company, and the guy next to him's sitting there saying like, "You own Bubba Gump?" No way. And the guy gets up and starts walking over here and takes this path walking away. You can see all this in the movie too. That historical marker right there you see over Forrest's shoulder at certain times. I'll insert some movie clips here. You can see these trees and everything. You can actually see this barrier on the other side of the plants behind Forrest the whole time. But that's when he says to the lady, "Would you like to see a picture of Lieutenant Dan?" And he pulls out that Fortune magazine, so she realizes he's the real deal because it's him and Lieutenant Dan on their fishing boat. And he continues telling his stories and everything here, and he tells about how he started running across America, and eventually when he stops running, Jenny is working in a restaurant. She sees him and contacts him, so that's why he's here. He tells the woman here, "I'm here to meet Jenny," and tells where she lives and says, "I'm waiting on the number 9 bus," and the lady says, "Why, that's just about 4 or 5 blocks down that road. You don't need a bus for that." And it's great because he just stands up with his box of chocolates, and you can tell how excited he is because he just immediately starts running towards us. Full sprint to go to Jenny's apartment. Now what's interesting about this is, as you can tell, the platform was made for the movie, so that's gone. But this movie, Tom Hanks, I mean, he won an Academy Award for it, and it was really unique because I remember when it came out, it wasn't often that you saw a movie where they were able to transport the main character back in time. You know, there were scenes with him and LBJ and John F. Kennedy and different things like that. So it was really cool to kind of see that in film as a young kid. Plus it had such an amazing soundtrack. And even when the feather's coming down, you can see that building off to the side. So cool to be here, just to get to see this in person. So let's walk on over and I'll show you a little bit more of the square. You can see it in the background of the movie, because like I said, 3/4 of the movie is him sitting right there telling that story. And you can see this whole barrier behind him and everything. And you see all the people walking by through the whole thing. There's even a point where you can see, if you're watching him talk in the background, there's like a guy and a girl walking, and the guy leans his foot up and is like tying his shoe against that tree. And so right here, right behind Forrest in the background, is James Oglethorpe, that statue of Oglethorpe. This is walking back towards Forrest's bench would have been on the other side of this barrier. I just want to give you a little perspective. Since you never see any of this in the movie, you never really get this angle. It's always from right there where that Chippewa Square sign is. And they do a lot of historical tours through trolleys, or by trolley, so that's what this is. Taking them by, showing them the historic spot. So cool to see this. If you're a film lover, this is one of the great ones. This is one of the greatest scenes, or greatest spots to go get a photo taken in film history, I think. So a couple of times while Forrest's sitting on the bench telling his story, you'll see that marker over his shoulder. I'll show you the photos of that. One of the reasons that I love this movie is because I think I grew up mostly watching three things, getting my, film and TV culture from watching HBO, TBS, and Nick at Night. And HBO, before this movie came out, did like a little behind the scenes documentary of it. And I was so excited from seeing that to see the movie that I couldn't wait. And then when I saw it in the theaters, I just thought it was just an epic movie. And even now when you watch it, I still think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. And just to get to see all this stuff in person is just absolutely amazing. Now, if you're noticing the traffic is coming towards us and the bench was right there, then you might be a little confused, because in the movie, we always see the bus that is coming to pick up people always going that way. They actually reversed the flow of traffic to film this so that they could have the bench going, or the bus going that way and the bench right here. Now, the controversy over the bench is that there's a museum just a couple of blocks away from here that claims to have the bench. But if you watch my channel for any length of time, you know that on my vlog where I filmed the back lot of Paramount Studios, I showed a bench there, and they have a plaque right on that bench that says this is the bench from Forrest Gump. So which one's the real bench? Let's go over to the museum, take a look at their bench, and I'll tell you what I was able to find and what the story of the bench really is. Now you might wonder, why didn't they keep the bench there? Who knows? It seems like if nothing else you'd put a replica there because it would be a really great tourist attraction, or maybe that's why they don't, because maybe too many people would congregate there if they knew it was there. But there's a little more to the story of the bench. We might have some bad news. I just looked online as I was punching in the address to walk over to the Savannah History Museum, and it's showing online that it might be temporarily closed because of the pandemic. So let's walk over and find out. If we can't see that bench, we'll be back. We'll be able to see it another time, but I'll tell you what I found out about the benches and which is the real bench. I think I finally have found the museum, but I'm worried that they might be closed. I think that all the museums might be closed in town. Yikes. Okay, yep, bummer, they're closed. That's okay. Let me tell you about what I know, and we'll come back and see it another time. Okay, so as far as I can tell, this is the story on the bench. There were actually 4 benches, not just 2 that we know about. There was actually 4. And they were all made by the studio for the movie, just in case they might need, anything could happen to the hero prop is what that bench would have been called. So they always make more than one for anything like that. They did make 4. One of them apparently was being auctioned through Christie's auction house in 95, 96. That apparently, even though they were saying that that was one of them, or saying it was the one, there were 4. So it was one of them, but the studio says that's just a replica. That was not the hero bench. Paramount says that the bench that they gave to this museum is also a replica made by the studio. They claim that they kept the hero bench and that they were going to, the last I could find anywhere in print, they were going to store it away to make sure it was safe. However, I have shown it at the Paramount lot right in front of the big theater whenever they're showing a movie on the studio grounds. It's right in front of there, and there's a plaque on it that says this is the bench from Forrest Gump, so I have to believe that's the bench. Now I don't know where that 4th bench is. Maybe that is one of the benches, that's maybe one of the fake ones too, and that the real hero bench is somewhere else. But as far as I could find, a producer owned one was being auctioned, one is here at the museum, and they said that the one here, they were going to put it in safekeeping so that people couldn't sit on or anything, but they were going to make a little display to where you could recreate that photo if you want, but not sit on the actual bench. But if the bench at Paramount that I've shown before in that vlog, I believe it's called the Paramount Backlot Tour, Studio Tour, if that's the one, then I've sat on that bench and I've sat in for a spot, so who knows. That's the best I could find about the Forrest Gump bench. That supposedly Paramount Studios says the one that's here is a studio replica that they made for the movie. But then again, who knows? Nowadays everything's a conspiracy, and no matter whether I show a legitimate plaque on the grounds of Paramount or not, people still want to tell me I'm wrong, so you be the judge. If I could have got inside, I would have matched up the bench with the one from the movie, but we can't. Because if you watch the movie close enough, they do enough close-ups of Tom Hanks sitting on that bench in different spots that you can find little aged rubbing marks or places it's worn out, and you could try and match it up. I just don't know. To me, even though it doesn't rain in Los Angeles maybe 3-4 times a year, it just still seems strange to me that they would put such an iconic prop out on the lot outside for anyone to sit on, anything to happen to. Seems a little strange to me, to be honest. Hey, look at that. There it is right out front. I'm kidding. That's not it. I know, it's a bummer. So there we have it, a little Forrest Gump movie filming location history and a little tour of Savannah. I like this old architecture. Well, my friends, since we're in Savannah and there's one other filming location for Forrest Gump, a little outside the city, I figured we might as well include it in this vlog. So we're gonna go head out to Love Seafood. Definitely a fun town to explore though. I am such a fan of the architecture here. Now, I don't believe that Love's is actually open right now. I don't think they're open today. And I think when they are open, they're not open till the evening. So hopefully we can do this through the windows, and some of the filming locations we want to see are actually outside. Here it is, there's Love's. So Love's, in the movie, this was the truck stop that Forrest comes into in his uniform, and he sees a woman on stage being announced as Bobby Dylan. And Bobby Dylan is Jenny. Jenny's performing her acoustic performance here. That's where she's nude with the acoustic guitar. And Forrest looks over and says, you know, in his head he can hear that that's where he believes, he's like, oh, Jenny's living out her dream of being a folk singer. And while he's watching her do Blowing in the Wind, because she loves Joan Baez, the 3 guys or 4 guys up front start hooting and hollering at her and telling her to remove the guitar and show something, everything, and Forrest gets mad. And he goes up and like grabs them and throws them back in their seats, and goes up and grabs her with her guitar and carries her off stage. But then you also see that scene where Forrest is up here talking to Jenny, and that's where he's telling her he wants her to go back to Alabama, and she hails down that car coming the other way, and just as she's about to get in the car, Forrest in his uniform right up here, because you can see the restaurant and everything. I just don't want to go on there because that is a really main road that cars are traveling on. They would have shut that down when they filmed this. But you can see this in the background and everything. He's up there, and that's when he says, "They're sending me to Vietnam." And she turns around and looks at him, and he says, "It's a whole other country." And that's when she runs back and says, "Promise me, Forrest, whatever happens, you'll run. Just run." And that's actually what ends up saving his life, is that he hears her while he's in Vietnam, and he starts running and doesn't stop running till he gets out to the water, and then eventually turns around and goes and saves all the guys in his platoon, including Lieutenant Dan. Maybe through the glass we can kind of see the performance area. We'll try. Oh, it looks like it would have been through that doorway. So we kind of lucked out. I went around to the back, and it turns out that even though they're not open on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, which is, I'm here on a Monday, there were people here, and they let me in, and they showed me that when they filmed the movie, this is how they dressed the Loves. So it looked a little different in the movie. They redid all the side and everything like that. And then here, this is the old bridge. They've since replaced that bridge, but that's the filming location. So you can see they've made another bridge right kind of in the same area that I showed you out there, but that was a different bridge in the same spot, and then you could see Loves over here. So the manager was telling me that the production took over this whole area out here, redid all that. That's where the old bridge would have been, of course, where we saw. And then where Jenny performed was back in this room. And they said that they just took over that whole room and completely redressed it the way that they needed it, so it doesn't look the same, but you'll be able to tell that this is where Jenny was performing her song. Give you a little look around the room. There you go. So this is where Jenny was performing Blowing in the Wind. Well, Bobby Dylan was. I'm so glad I decided to go around back and see if anybody was here just for the heck of it. Actually, I was going around back to see if I could look through any of the windows to get a shot of that room, and it just turned out to work out for us today. Sometimes it does. That's fun. I love it when a plan comes together, to quote a great A-team leader, Hannibal. We'll end the vlog up here. I saw something when I was getting off the freeway that I thought would be perfect to end the vlog at. Well, my friends, I think we're gonna call it a day. I wanna thank Susan Harbridge and Shelly Langley for becoming my newest Patreons. Thank you to this beautiful cow with her, I don't know what she's got going on here, an I Love Fleas necklace, cowbell, earrings, a hat. You got a lot going on there, sister. Thank you all for watching, and good night.